Let's talk about Hitler.
That'll make sense later.
I'm immaculately conceived.
I don't know what to do.
I swear I'm not stupid.
Take it or leave it. Sometimes you just want to leave it.
If I gotta borrow my mom's underwear, I'm borrowing her underwear.
You just, yeah.
Misa likes the Jar Jar Binks.
I'm not gonna edit it out.
Oh no.
I don't know. Like, I think it was pretty great. Just staying on the
Sucks to
planet.
suck.
Why are you saying it with a question mark?
Clap, bitch.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Action.
And we're live. I'm Anna.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is Why Are You Yelling? Welcome back to another F1 race review. We are going to do a recap and a review and an analysis. Very in-depth, very technical, very professional.
Yep.
Of round 11 of the 2025 Formula One season. We are going to be talking about the MSC Cruises Austrian Grand Prix. Woo!
She's very excited. Also, if you need a refresher at all, you can see our sign. Lewis Hamilton, I don't want to stop. His engineer, box. Pretty much sums it up, like the whole vibe of the year, but bless. So we can jump into the race podium, the constructor standings, and some of the drivers before we get into fun facts. So our race podium, we have Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and Charles Leclerc. Woohoo! Pretty much finished where we started for the most part.
Let me tell you that by the time we got to the end of the race, I completely forgot that Ferrari was even in P3 and P4.
Yeah, just was like, oh.
Because so much of the focus was they were just in no man's land. We'll get there. We'll get to that later. But I forgot Charles was even in P3 for a minute, and then it was like the McLarens crossed the finish line, and then 20 seconds later, and then there rounds out our podium, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, Charles started second, finishes third. You know. Lewis just stayed there. He's fourth. Bless. So we will hop into our constructor standings. McLaren is still leading with 417 points. Ferrari has now jumped back to second place with 210 points.
Woo, woo.
Thank you, Kimi Antonelli. Love ya. Mercedes is only 1 point away, though, in third at 209 points. Red Bull is fourth with 162 points. Williams is fifth with 55 points. Racing Bulls is sixth with 36 points. Haas is seventh with 29 points. Aston Martin is eighth with 28 points. Kick Sauber is ninth with 26 points. And Alpine is 10th with 11 points. So, yeah. And our driver standings, the biggest change now is Lando is closing the gap in on Piastri. Piastri has 216 points. Lando has 201 points. So first and second is still the McLaren boys, and we're still like, what's going to happen?
It's feeling like it's going to be a battle between them until the end of the season. I think it's going to go back and forth because it feels like, and Lando's talked about trying to find this consistency where, you know, the weekends that he's on it, he's just on it. Everything's clicking. He's qualifying well. The race performance is good. But he hasn't been able to repeatedly do it race after race. So it's been a little hit or miss.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be I feel like it's going to be like that through the end of the season.
Oh yeah. It's we shall see.
Yeah. So we can hop into our fun facts. Starting with McLaren, they scored their fourth 1-2 finish of the season. So this is the team's most 1-2 finishes since 2007. And for Lando Norris, it was his 7th career victory. The last McLaren driver to win at the Red Bull Ring was David Coulthard in 2001.
I heard that. Love DC.
Only 2 drivers have won exactly 7 Grand Prix for McLaren, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri.
Wow.
And speaking of Mr. Piastri, he finished second in Austria for the second year in a row, which I thought it was interesting going into this weekend that a lot of people were mentioning that Lando this is almost like a specialist track for him. There's certain drivers where they'll say they're a specialist at this track, meaning that for whatever reason, they just click really well. Their driving style just vibes with it. And people were saying, they're like, oh, Lando is kind of a specialist at this track. He usually does really well at Austria. But apparently Max is also in Austria. I feel like he's just a specialist everywhere.
Yeah, but I think everybody just likes the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of people's favorite track. They've described it as very flowy. I think that a lot of people, we saw a lot of people do really well here that otherwise haven't really performed that well yet. So I'm like, I think this is just one of those tracks that a lot of people excel at.
I mean, people were even saying, Charles Leclerc I think he's won here. I think he won here before. We're back from the fact check. Charles Leclerc has won in Austria before in 2022. So yeah, and I thought I had remembered someone mentioning that on the broadcast, but apparently a lot of people are specialists at Austria and do really well here.
Well, they've extended it to 2041, they said. So Jesus Christ. They extended it.
Yeah.
2041.
Moving on to Mr. Charles Leclerc. Speaking of him, he finished P3 for his third podium finish in the last 4 Grand Prix. So even though we've been having issues, Ferrari's been having issues, we're still somehow pulling these podiums out of somewhere.
Somewhere.
Who knows where it's coming from. But this was Leclerc's 5th podium finish at the Red Bull Ring, his most at any circuit. See?
He's a specialist.
Everyone's a specialist. So teammate Lewis Hamilton tied his best Grand Prix result of the season, finishing in P4. He also finished P4 at Imola earlier this year.
Go Lewis. Poor Lewis.
Poor Lewis Hamilton. The communication issues persist with Ferrari, and I don't know if it's at this point, I'm starting to wonder if it's specifically with this engineer that we're having the communication problems with.
Yeah.
Or if it's just Ferrari as a whole, because the engineer can only relate to the driver what they're being instructed by the person ultimately responsible for the team strategy.
I don't want to stop. Box. Hello?
Yeah. And it wasn't a simple, box. I don't want to box. You're boxing anyway.
It was too long.
Multiple back and forths. It was, it was almost Lewis saying, you need to explain to me why we're doing this. What is the strategy? This doesn't make any sense. What are we doing? And it was multiple back and forths and the questioning. And I'm just there is no trust at all. It seems.
Yeah.
Between this driver and this engineer, or just the driver and whoever's calling the strategy at this point.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's bizarre.
And it could still be, again, we've said it before, growing pains. We're almost halfway through this season. It's still not that much time to develop a relationship with your engineer. I feel like it's been 11 races. It's still not a ton of time. It's they refer to it in other sports as meaningful playing time, when it's you're actually getting the experience in the moment of a game time situation.
Yeah.
There's only been 11 rounds of that. And to be fair, it's for an hour and a half at a time. But in race scenarios and communication and strategy.
I mean, but it's not like it's his first rodeo either. It's kind of we don't see this issue happening with Bono and Kimi, and they're in the exact same scenario right now.
That's true.
That's probably due to the communication style. One style is better received than another style, it seems. And I just am I don't know if that's because, if you're Bono, you've been the race engineer. You've won 6 championships with a driver. And maybe, nobody really needs to criticize your communication skills. You've been communicating with the world champion and helped him win 6 titles. So it's kind of at that point, that also goes into the communication skills. That driver can only do so much if their engineer is not well-versed in how to communicate with them. So it's at this point...
I would argue it's a little different with Kimi and Bono because Kimi is a rookie. And a very young rookie. He's only 18. Yes, it is a new driver and engineer pairing with them, but there is a power dynamic there when you're 18, brand new to this level of the sport, to this team.
But Kimi has no reason to question Bono.
Exactly.
But Ricky has no reason to question Lewis. It's the exact opposite scenario. If you have a driver who is as successful as Lewis is, then why are you questioning him so often all the time? And like, of course, it's that to me. That's how I see it. Like, of course, Kimi's not questioning Bono. Why would he? Look at him.
His track record.
Look at his track record. So it's like the same.
And
it's
then
the
you
opposite.
look at
it's the opposite for Lewis and his engineer. It's like
you look at Ferrari's track record or lack thereof,
and it's like, why are you questioning the only person here who's been winning in the past decade? Why? Like, he's the only one on the team at this point
that has won a world championship,
and helped his like constructor win their constructor. Like, so what are we arguing about? He's the only one that's done it. That's on the team right now. At least that
we're aware
of. I don't be nitpicky, but like, so why are we?
I don't know that there's one communications person at Ferrari that was a part of Mercedes. 4 years ago.
I don't know. I'm just saying the main players here. He's the one that's been winning in the past decade. So why are we questioning him so much? That's how I see it. I see it as, why are we questioning the one person here at face value that we're aware of that has actually won things recently? I don't just mean a race, the titles. It's just, I don't know.
And that has consistently won, because Ferrari's got some here and there, but
yes.
Yeah, the communication issues and the lack of trust in the strategy are very telling. Moving on to George Russell, racing for Mercedes, took P5 and has only failed to score once this season, which was in Monaco. So he scored in every other round this season so far. Liam Lawson, driving for Racing Bulls, finished P6, and it is his best career finish.
He had a very good weekend. He was one of the ones that just, I guess because he has experience there, as I guess whenever he, like during his rookie stuff or whatever, or I guess his feeder series stuff, but he just was killing it. And I'm like, okay.
That was an observation I heard someone make, was that this particular track, and as we get, this kind of opens, this is the beginning of like the European leg of the season, is that as this is one of the first tracks where a lot of the rookies will have had experience here. And so that can be a little bit of a contributing factor to why some of the rookies did so well at this particular track. Which, good on Liam. I think that it was a much needed sort of boost for him in his like confidence and for the team. And
for sure.
Then moving on to our P7 finisher, Mr. Fernando Alonso, racing for Aston Martin. He now has back-to-back 7th place finishes.
So it's like his 3rd weekend in a row.
Yeah, scoring points.
Yeah. I was very happy. That was like this. There are just times where I'm like, this is what I'm concentrating on. And Alonso has become the person where I'm like, where's Lewis? Where's Max? Where's Charles? And where's Alonso?
It's like every once in a while during the race, you got to kind of like check in and see where all the faves are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So full disclosure, I did fall asleep during this race. I was so tired and I held on not strong at all. I was dozing kind of in and out at the beginning, the first 35 laps or so. And then at lap 35, I was full on knocked out. And then I woke up around lap 60. So saying that to say, what happened with Alonso's race? But see, I feel like I heard people talking about it after. And basically he was behind Liam.
He was pretty much
and just rode his...
He was in DRS range like the whole time.
He just had to stay with Liam the whole time because he didn't think he had the pace to keep that position unless he had the boost from DRS. And so I think at one point they were trying to figure out like when they want to box. And Alonso's like, we box when he boxes because I need to be on that ass.
Yeah, they both did one stops. Like literally Alonso's like, where is he? Got him.
Because he's like, I can't not be on him the whole time. And Liam mentioned that in the after race interviews. And he was like, I mean, Alonso was just, I'm sure he got real sick of seeing my rear wing.
Alonso's like, no, I was fine.
I was fine. I was good right there.
That was good.
Yeah. But apparently Fernando had a couple of moments where he was getting his elbows out a little bit, being defensive. And it's kind of one of those things where it reminds you like how good of a defensive driver he is. I think sometimes he doesn't often get to show off those skills because the car has not been the greatest so far this season.
Newer people who aren't familiar with Alonso, even like from last year, like if you watched last year, you would be familiar with this because he had a lot of moments like this last season as well. But if you're like newer, you wouldn't know that, but like the people that do know, everyone's like, watch out.
They're like, you do not want to get stuck behind him. He's one of the best defensive drivers, and it is very hard to pass him. So good on him. We love our
veteran rookie.
Yeah. So moving on to P8, we have Gabriel Bortoleto for Sauber. He got his first career points finish of his career. I was going to say of the year, but it's his first points finish of his entire career.
We literally just said, like, last episode, I think I said something along the lines of he's supposed to be a prodigy, so he better get to prodigying. There he is. He got the prodigying. There he goes.
I think Sauber had some upgrades last weekend that
they may have I think the big upgrades were last weekend. I'm not sure if they brought any small ones or not. But I know that the big one that everybody was like, oh shit, it was last weekend.
Yeah, and and it was obvious then with Nico Hülkenberg's performance last weekend that the upgrades helped tremendously. And if I remember correctly, Nico was surprised at how well the upgrades worked. And so now we see that Gabriel Bortoleto gets to benefit from some of those upgrades too. And good on him. I'm very excited to know. A lot of people were very happy for him that he finally got those points. Much needed again for, it's one of those things where it's like your rookies are, you want them to have something to like hang their hat on kind of thing.
We have 3 rookies in a row. Yeah. I mean, our rookies. We have Liam, Alonso, and Gabriel just right there with each other. It was also interesting because for those who don't know, Alonso is a part of Gabriel's management team. And it was very interesting to see them battle. And there was a point where Gabriel does get past Alonso, and then Alonso very quickly and very clever. It's a clever part of the track. He kind of took advantage of the fact that the leaders were coming through, and then he just immediately stole the place back. And I'm like, that right there, that right there.
Alonso was like, "Good job, kid," but I don't think so. So this was Sauber's best result at the Red Bull Ring since Kimi Räikkönen finished 4th in 2001. Nico Hülkenberg scored points in P9 from last on the starting grid.
Wow, I did not realize that.
I didn't either till I just read that. Way to go, Hulk!
Good job.
Yeah, look at Sauber. Look at them.
Damn.
So Hülkenberg is the first Sauber driver to score in 3 consecutive races since Valtteri Bottas in 2022. And this was the first double points finish for Sauber since Qatar 2023.
Nico Hülkenberg is just, you look at him and you're like, that guy probably, something has went awry in his career because he just gives the impression that he has the talent to have a championship. Like that, it's just like whether it was just never the right team, right time in the car, and him never, I'm like, I feel like if you put him in the right car, you've got a number 1 driver that's going to get you a championship, which is probably why he's been around for as long as he has been. So
yeah, my first introduction to Hülkenberg was in Drive to Survive. I believe it was in season 1 where Will Buxton made the observation and that Hülkenberg was one of those could have been and should have been a world champion, but for whatever reason, bad timing, not making the right choices for the right teams to drive for the right teams at the right times. For whatever reason, he's just never gotten it. I don't think he's even gotten a podium ever in his career.
He holds the records for most race starts without a podium and without a win.
He's one of the only drivers among the top 56 most experienced in F1 history to have never finished on the podium. He's achieved a pole position and 2 fastest laps.
I would love to see that.
I would love to see that for him too.
I want to see that, but I also things I want to see. I want to see Alonso win a race, or on a podium. Basically, I would love to want to see him win. Want to see him on a podium. Would love to see Hulk the same thing. I'm like, I want to see that. I want to see people.
Crazy things happen. If you recall last year, I believe it was it Brazil where it rained like crazy and
both Alpines.
Yeah, and Max got that crazy P1 finish, but then both Alpines, which were very bad last year.
Yeah,
both Alpines came in second, third, and for craziness where they're like, how did this happen? We don't know, but we'll take it. So I'm just fingers crossed we have just another crazy race and we get a Hülkenberg or Alonso podium. That would die. Like, that would be great.
I'm calling Silverstone. It's going to rain. It's going to be a Lewis Hamilton, Alonso, and Hulkenberg, and that's going to be our podium.
That is a bold prediction.
If it happens, like, I actually need to play the lottery.
For real.
You heard it here first.
So moving on to P10, we have Esteban Ocon racing for Haas. This was his 5th points finish of the season. So, yeah, I feel like Haas has been kind of anonymous outside of the first maybe couple races this year.
I feel the same way. I feel like they were really hot, and then they were just kind of like quiet, and now they're starting to like get up there again.
Make a little noise.
Yeah. And I feel like Oliver Behrman was making a lot more noise at the start, and he's been a little, I don't want to say the word forgetful, but just like anonymous is a good way to put it, where it's like he's like been finishing right outside the points or something. I don't know. It's just, he did really well, and then I just feel like he's kind of fallen a bit.
Yeah. And I definitely think it's the car. I don't think it's necessarily him. He and Esteban are both good drivers. So. Yeah.
I mean, I think some of it is, it's, when you're dealing with a rookie, it's going to be, part of it could be the car, but some of it's going to be experience. And has he been at this track before? Has he not? You know, dealing with situations that you don't deal with in the feeder series. So I don't think it's any skill thing. If anything, it's the car or like a learning curve thing, probably. But Ocon's been doing fairly decent.
Yeah,
I feel like when he's able to extract from the car, he does it.
When there's something to extract.
Yeah, when there's something to extract, he's able to do that.
So now we'll move on to our DNFs, and there were several this race.
That was insane.
It was a lot, especially right at the start. So at the very beginning of the race, so it's very funny. So we just went and saw the F1 movie the day before the race.
Yes.
And we will be doing a review of the movie, so look out for that. Hopefully it'll come out. We're aiming for within less than a week from when this episode airs.
Yeah.
So in that particular movie, and this is spoiler alert in case you haven't seen it, there's one small part where the main character, Sonny Hayes, Brad Pitt, pretends like he doesn't know how to get his car to start on the grid. So all the other cars, they're doing a formation lap, warming up their tires. They're like half a circuit away. Brad Pitt's just sitting there on the track being like, I don't know how to start the car. And then eventually he gets it going. And so he pulls up into his spot on the grid right before the lights go out and they actually start the race. And so in the movie, they comment that, they're like, he did that on purpose because now his tires are warmer. He'll have a couple of, it's like a marginal advantage to the people around him, but his tires are a little bit warmer than everyone else's that have had to sit in the grid waiting for him to get to his spot. And so keep that in mind. We then get to watching our Sunday race at Austria, and formation lap starts. And who do we have but Carlos Sainz at the back of the grid, not moving from his grid box?
No, he's like not moving.
His car won't start, and he's like on the radio asking the engineer, what do I need to do? Like, I can't get the car to start. It just won't move. And then everyone and their mother is like, he's pulling a Brad Pitt. He's pulling a Sonny Hayes. It was just very funny and sort of ironic that coincidental maybe that happened.
Yeah. But he was not pulling a Sonny Hayes.
No, he was having issues. So neither Williams cars finished the race.
Yeah, Carlos didn't even start. Like he was going to have to start from the pit lane because of what happened, I think. And so whenever they finished the formation lap, he had to go through the pits, but then his brakes were on fire. He didn't even get to race at all.
Yeah, they just had to retire the car. So I guess he has a DNS, so it did not start because they didn't even get to start the race. And we also had Alex Albon, who had a DNF. It was his 3rd consecutive race retirement. God. Williams, what is going on, man?
I don't know. I think this was the first weekend I saw where this was the first weekend that Carlos Sainz had said that the Williams was undrivable. And I'm like, fuck, because they were looking so strong.
I just don't know what happened.
It makes you wonder, like, because we're new regulations. So much of that team is focused and has been focused on 2026. And like now we're halfway through the season. Just technically, Silverstone will be at the halfway mark, but we're essentially at the halfway mark. I'm like, are people just not like concentrating as hard anymore. Like something was just with this car and this track. Just I don't know.
I'm like, why wouldn't you though? Because if you're,
I don't know. I mean,
because the higher up you finish in the constructor standings, the more reward money you get.
yeah,
like that's the way it works. So that's why the constructor standings matter so much to everyone, to the teams in particular, because think of the constructors like all putting money, like almost like an entry fee into like a pot at the beginning of the season, right? So there's this sort of like this pool of money that then at the end of the season, depending on where all 10 constructors finish, if you come in first, you get the biggest portion, like the biggest chunk of reward money.
Yeah.
And then it just goes down from there all the way to 10. So you get some money depending on where you finish, but we're talking like a one place finish, difference in where you finish as a constructor. So finishing in 10th as a constructors versus finishing 8th. I mean, we're talking millions of dollars difference in what you're going to get.
As Will Buxton said, finishing 5th is better than finishing 6th in the constructors. I don't know that that's a direct quote, but it feels like it could have been.
It feels like it was something in the realm of what he might have said. Saying all the stuff about the pot and the constructors' money you get at the end of the season, all that to say, we're not even halfway through this season.
Yeah.
It still matters where you finish in the constructors, or it should still matter. So you shouldn't be giving up because, again, the higher up you place, the more money you get to put back toward the new regulations.
Yeah, they need to start. Williams is 5th, so that they're never going to be higher than that because the next is Red Bull. Red Bull is 4th with 162. Williams is 5th with 55. Racing Bulls is 6th with 36. So, I mean, honest to God, they really need to...
They just need to hold on to their lead.
They need to hold on to the lead, but I mean, if they have another 2 races like this, I mean, Racing Bull is going to get them because for them, it was a really weird thing that Isaac wasn't in the points. That's not a characteristic of him. So now, if we can have normally he's the one in the points and Liam is the one not in the points. So if Liam is in the points now,
if we're getting
2 double points, I mean, kiss 5th goodbye if you don't figure it out.
So yeah, I don't know what's going on with Williams. I don't know if maybe they took a wrong direction I don't know if they had any upgrades that didn't work effectively this season or what. Because for Carlos to say that the car was undrivable, something is wrong.
Yeah, something's very wrong.
And I don't know that that's just like a setup problem.
Yeah.
That to me seems to indicate it's a larger problem.
Yeah, I don't know what upgrades they did or did not bring. We'll have to look and see if there's been anything that's worth noting.
To investigate the Williams problem because they've just fallen off a cliff.
I don't know why Alex DNF'd, by the way. He just pitted and then didn't come out again. I thought Yuki had wrecked him. Yuki was on a roll. Yuki was angry. But I don't actually know the cause of Alex's DNF. It's just he literally pitted and didn't come out and I was like, hello?
Yeah, so after Alex got out, so he was forced to retire after 15 laps. And after getting out of the car, he said he did not yet know the root cause, but suggested that there were similarities to his previous DNF in Montreal. Yeah, he said it felt inside the cockpit a bit like Canada. We need to review it. We seem to be struggling a little bit with, I'm not sure if it's temperature related, but we've had a few DNFs now in a row, so it's a bit annoying, especially when we're in the fight for points.
So, we're not sure.
Yeah.
We for sure know the cause of the other DNF, though, of the other 2 DNFs.
Oh, yeah. So Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli had a moment in the opening lap of the race. Was it deemed a racing incident?
No, he is.
So Kimi got
he has
penalties.
He has a 3-place grid penalty going into Silverstone.
Okay. Yeah. So there was an incident where something happened. Kimi, I think, locked up or...
Kimi was going in too hot. Way too hot. He locks up the rears and then locks up the front and all of the cars locked up. About hits Liam Lawson. He actually manages to get out of the way. And then he...
T-bones Max.
Yeah, just immediately takes out Max and Max is just done. And it was so annoying. It's whatever.
Yeah, it was disappointing. Especially with this being Red Bull's home race. There were a lot of Max fans in attendance.
Oh my God, the Orange Army. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That is an insane... oh my God. One, I saw somebody share a video of that. They were in person. that was nuts, like from like a bystander's point of view. And then when you're watching the race and you just see the cars pass, you can see them. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
It is like visually just to see, it's insane.
Yeah, Max gets a lot of support in Austria, and I feel bad for them that they didn't get to really see him do anything.
Imagine going to a race to see like a very particular person because of this person and their relationship with the track, and then they're literally out the first lap.
Yeah.
Traumatizing.
That was really unfortunate.
But yeah, that was not great. But Max, he was very nice to Kimi.
Mm-hmm.
And the memes from it are hysterical. Like, they are so funny because that is... But, you know, Max, he's mama hen with those rookies. He loves them.
I was going to say that they're like his little baby ducklings, and he is... I think he gives them sort of like the grace that he may not have been given when he was a rookie.
I've heard people say that.
And he's just so nice to them and very understanding. And he's like, basically like, it's really unfortunate, but these things happen. Part of it is experience. They're young. Like, they'll figure it out. It is what it is.
Max has this reputation where he's just like, oh, Max is so mean and he's so this.
He's always angry.
I'm like, no, literally his qualifying lap in Q3 was messed up because of a yellow flag. So that's why he was 7th, is because of that. It was just really, he probably would have been on the first or second row, but his lap got messed up due to the yellow flag. So he knew his lap was messed up and then saw Gabriel Bortoleto behind him, gave him a slipstream on purpose and said that's exactly what he did. And Gabriel later was like, yeah, that's just, Max did that. And
he does that. He helps me out a lot.
He goes, because they're friends. And I'm like, yeah, because he's so mean. He's so mean.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's easier to do that when you know that, like, that driver and that team, they're not your fight isn't with them in terms of competition. No. So it's, Max is friends with Charles Leclerc. He's not giving Charles a slipstream in qualifying. No. That's his, like, direct competition. No. Sauber and Gabriel Bortoleto are not Max's direct competition. So he's like, you know what? Yeah, I'll give the kid a break. I'll give him a slipstream during qualifying because my race isn't with him.
Yeah.
And his race ended up not being with anybody. Because he got taken out, but kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
So with Max DNFing in lap 1, and then we get Yuki Tsunoda. He was the last classified finisher in P16. So there were 4 cars that just didn't finish the race or didn't start the race.
Yeah.
So that means that Red Bulls did not score a single point in this race. And their 77 race scoring streak ended today.
Oh, that's right.
They were 4 short of the all-time record that was set by Ferrari of the most consecutive races scoring a point for a team.
Wow.
So this was the end of Max's 31 race point streak. Okay, so he had a point scoring streak going, 31 races strong. So that was the end of that. And he had scored points in 74 of the last 75 races. Apparently, his last 2 retirements that happened during the first lap of a race have been when he was hit by a Mercedes. So we had this one, and then the previous one was Silverstone in 2021.
Oh, the bad one.
Yeah. So Kimi Antonelli, who took out Max, had never retired on the first lap before today. The last Mercedes lap 1 retirement was Lewis Hamilton at Qatar in 2023. Antonelli's only points finish in the last 5 races was his podium finish in Canada. So the struggle continues for Kimi.
It's okay, Kimi.
We'll bounce back.
It's all right, Kimi.
Yeah, I felt really bad for him. You could tell that he
didn't take that helmet off.
No, kept it on the whole way back.
I said, find Anthony Hamilton and send him to Kimi immediately. If he's there, we need the emotional support dad. Where is he?
So I think that ends our fun fact.
Well, we did get some fun McLaren racing. That was something we had said, we're ready for it. We are ready for it. And we got it. I mean, the battle between Oscar and Lando was really, it was fun.
Yeah.
And so what's really interesting is, I think I've talked about before, every now and then, I'll put on like really old races and I'll just watch them because it's just interesting to me. But because of the technology back then, they really focus like a lot of times in the front or like the most interesting thing. So even if like Senna at the time wasn't necessarily battling, but he was in the battle, or like if he was second, like that's who they focused on. They didn't always go and focus on the back or this or that.
Or like the midfield.
Just because they're like, we know why y'all are watching. And that's how it reminded me somewhat for a long time during this race, where for the longest time, the camera just never left the McLarens. And I didn't even hate it because I liked being able to see the build-up to what Oscar was going to try to do rather than just see the attack. I like seeing the build-up. I like seeing him prepare for it, set it up, and really, like, I really enjoyed that. And Lando just did a good job. Like, he was, a half a second away from everybody in qualifying, and so that was already very impressive.
It was, I think, the largest margin in qualifying
that they've had
this season.
Yeah, and so he just did a really good job. He was calm, collected.
He was in a flow state. He was just on it,
and so I think he just did it really good. I mean, Oscar and him, they raced. They
kept it clean.
They kept it clean, but not boring by any means. You know, they were going for it, and I just was like,
that's what we want to see. I agree with the keeping. I don't mind keeping the camera on sort of the bat and on the two McLarens and following them for a significant amount of time, because we don't really get to see all that. We don't get to do that all that often.
Yeah.
Because there is so much usually happening elsewhere on the track. And because the cars are moving so fast and the cameras don't, like, it's like you're cutting to different shots like every couple of seconds because they're just zooming. I think that it was nice to be able to see some of that side by side action and, like you said,
build up to it.
Because a lot of figuring out when you're gonna overtake somebody, it's planning. It's the drivers observing what the person in front of them is gonna do. It's noting how the lines that they take in certain corners, and then trying to figure out, okay, what's my best position? Like, so seeing the build up to it, seeing the setup to the moves and when they're going to try to pull something, that is interesting because we don't get to see it hardly ever.
No, we don't ever get to see it. Half the time we just see it right when it's about to happen.
Or it's a quick cut to, like, oh my God.
It goes, oh, this just happened.
Yeah.
Here's a replay. And I'm like, I mean, I'm fine with the replay, but I really enjoyed that. I don't know. I like that. I think McLaren last season, and I think, I was probably guilty of saying some things of it too, because at the time, like, we're like, just pick a driver. But
who should be like your number one.
I like how that's been handled. I like that Zach Brown, and I'm well aware he's not the team principal, but he's very involved. He's the CEO of McLaren Racing, but he has not, it doesn't seem that him and Andrea Stella. I want to make sure I said it the first. I know his name is Andrea, but I'm like, is it Andrea? Is it Andrea?
Andrea Stella,
yeah. Like, it doesn't seem that they've had any sort of discussions of being like, here's the pure, like, here is the number one and here is the number two. It feels like they're just like, no, we're just going to let them race. And we're not saying who number one or who number two is. And I just like that Zach has just really stood by that versus letting everybody else be like, no, just pick your person. Just do it. And he's like, no. And I feel like that's just to me, I'm like, it would be very easy to pick a number one or a number two. And I feel like almost every other team probably would. And I'm like, it's very American to me. It's for
may the best man win.
Well, yeah, to be like, y'all both can work for it then within reason. And until you really give me a reason to not let you're going to do that.
Until it's like, I'm going to trust you to handle it and to race and not cause problems. And I'm not going to step in unless you prove to me that you can't handle it. It's kind of like you give them an inch and see if they take the mile. Like you just let them do what they're going to do. And unless it becomes a problem to where they're constantly, unless it's causing issues within the team, it's causing hostility, it's causing one or both cars to crash out or get in accidents or not finish a race and severely costing the team points and, like, the constructors. Unless we're getting to that point, just let them race.
Let
them do what
the
they gotta
boys
do.
race.
Yeah.
Well, I also think too, it's like, how do I put it? Zach has like two of the best drivers on his team. And he's showing it off, and he's letting them show everybody else. He's letting everybody know in that constructors. He's like, I have the two most consistent and arguably the best on my team.
The best driver lineup.
Yeah. And they get to push each other to be better. Y'all got to worry about yourselves and everybody else. Like, I just got to worry about me. And I just am.
And it is different from last year when this year it's obviously a battle between the two McLaren drivers of who's going to be the driver's champion at the end of the year, versus last year it was, Max in holding the lead and maintaining the lead. And then you have kind of Oscar and Lando sort of taking points off each other almost. Like, that's a different scenario when you have another driver from another team at play, where there may come a time sooner in that sort of scenario where you kind of have to throw your support behind one driver or the other. So I think that calling for McLaren to choose the number one driver last season, I think that that's fair.
Yeah.
But compared to this season, when it's just your two drivers are in the 1-2 spot, like, let them race. Let them figure it out. May the best man win.
That was that was fun. And then it just kind of was what it was. But it was interesting to hear the teams race against each other and to have strategy against each other, because they don't have, I mean, it's the pit wall, but they're in two different garages. And so I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, because usually when you have your two drivers, for the most part, it's like the wall in between the two sides of the garage and the two strategies, where for the most part, you're both running your own race, but there is a level of collaboration involved when it's trying to time your pit stops and stuff, because a lot of times it's not necessarily the teammates trying to get one over on each other. They're trying to figure out how to get over on the cars around them, right? And so it's making sure that your strategies don't conflict and you're not trying to basically box both cars at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the extent of the collaboration, outside of if you have a very clear number one and number two driver, and it's like a Max Verstappen who's qualifying in the top 3 or 4, and then you have like Yuki Tsunoda who's not making it out of Q1. Then there's a little more information exchange, because then you're getting data on tire usage. Yep. You might do offset strategies. And then the driver who qualified lower and probably won't score points can then help their teammate to get some information to help their race and maximize their results. That's all fine. But that is not what this is between the McLarens. And I think it's great and interesting.
Yeah.
And I love, like, I'm here for it, to see the two sides of the garage, like, plotting their own strategy against each other, to be like, okay, boys, let's see what we can cook up and see who's really, like, who's got what it takes to come out on top. Like, it's it's almost like an inter-squad scrimmage. Like when your team plays against itself to see where we're at and where we stack up. Like, I dig that.
I thought that was very interesting and will be fun to see how it keeps playing out. All right. Well, with that all being said, we can hop into our rookie report. So Kimi Antonelli, he qualified 9th. He had a DNF, so no points.
Wah, wah.
So on the first lap, Kimi spotted a gap down the inside into turn 3 and went in a bit too hot. He narrowly avoided Liam Lawson, but locked up and hit Max Verstappen, ending both of their races. He did take full responsibility immediately. He was just like, I'm sorry. And Max is like, it's cool. But he was handed a 3-place grid penalty going into Silverstone. Isaac Hadjar, he qualified 13th. He finished 12th, so 0 points.
Oy.
Isaac was pushed wide at both turn 1 and turn 3 on the opening lap, and he picked up some floor damage that cost him over a second per lap. An early pit stop committed him to a long final stint on hard tires. Despite strong pace early on and a well-executed strategy that had him running comfortably in the points, the combination of damage and aging tires saw him dropping back through the field late in the race. So, that's okay. We'll get him next time, Isaac. Franco Colapinto, he qualified 14th. He finished 15th, so 0 points.
Franco.
Oh, man.
What is going on, my guy?
Race by race basis now. So, Franco Colapinto's race unraveled after contact with Yuki Tsunoda at turn 4, and it sent him into a spin, potentially causing damage that affected the car's handling. He later forced Piastri wide during a rejoin and received a 5-second time penalty as well. And despite a strong start, Colapinto struggled with balance and high tire degradation, leaving him without any pace to recover. So, yeah, apparently Colapinto is on a race-by-race review basis right now. So
on if he gets to keep his seat.
If he gets to keep his seat, which seems very insane and a lot of pressure for anybody to deal with. But that is how they are choosing to handle it at the moment.
Have there been any talks of who would even be waiting in the wings to get?
Probably Jack Doohan.
Maybe.
I would assume handing him his spot back. Ollie Behrman, he qualified 15th. He finished 11th, so 0 points. Behrman started on softs and made solid progress early on, but a tough middle stint on his second set of tires hurt his race. He was forced to go long on his final stint with mediums, which limited his ability to fight back after his second stop dropped him down the order. Despite the challenges, he climbed to P11 and showed encouraging pace throughout. They had said that Haas has normally performed pretty well at this track, and like we said, Ocon did finish in the points, so it just sounds like it kind of was what it was. Gabriel Bortoleto, he qualified 8th and he finished 8th, so he got 4 points.
Yay!
Bortoleto had a clean start and ran strongly throughout the race, making the most of Sauber's upgrades. He praised the team's pace and strategy, calling the race super intense from start to finish. After a strong drive, he scored his first F1 points with a P8 finish, just behind the one stopping Alonso and Lawson. And despite a late push, including a hard-fought battle with Alonso, he ran out of time to get past. He did really well, so way to prodigy. There you go. Liam Lawson, he qualified 6th and he finished 6th, so he got 8 points.
Yay!
Woohoo! Lawson narrowly avoided contact with Antonelli on the opening lap, but still picked up some damage after squeezing past the Mercedes. The team committed to a one-stop strategy, which paid off. Despite heavy pressure from Alonso for much of the race, Lawson stayed composed and secured a career best P6. So, good job, Liam. Fernando Alonso, he qualified 11th. He finished 7th, so he got 6 points. Alonso finished 7th in Austria after starting P11, making a one-stop strategy work despite concerns about the heat. He stayed in DRS range throughout and showed clever racecraft late on, reclaiming a lost position from Bortoleto while both were being lapped by the leaders. A composed and tactical drive from the veteran rookie. I'm happy to see Alonso get more points. This is his 3rd consecutive points finish. Thank God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we can move on to our best and worst segment. Well, who is your driver of the day?
My driver of the day is Gabriel Bortoleto.
Oh, thank God it's not mine.
Okay.
I'm always nervous now. I'm like, who is it?
Are we going to have the same ones? Yeah, Gabby just did a really good job. Got his first career points in F1. Just good on him. Very happy for him. Sauber got their first consecutive point score of the year. So very happy for them.
Double points.
Yeah.
My driver of the day, I'm giving to Liam Lawson. I'm like, you had a great weekend, my guy. You had a good day. Good on you. Doing a one-stop with Alonso behind you as well, like, you don't want to see him in your mirror.
Breathing down his neck.
I think he did. And then to avoid, good on him for avoiding contact with Antonelli. I mean, that could have just ended things as well. And then I don't know what it did damage on the car, but knowing that it did and he managed that for 70 laps, good on him.
Yeah, I could tell he looked very tired after the race. He was like physically and mentally like exhausted, having to drive with Alonso breathing down his neck for 70
He's
laps.
like, I'm tired. So now we move on to our biggest letdown. Who is your biggest letdown?
My biggest letdown was Red Bull, just as a whole. This was their home race for the team. We had a Max DNF in lap 1. We had a Yuki P16. In the last 3 races, Sauber has scored more points than Red Bull. So I want y'all to let that sink in for a second, that in the last 3 races, Sauber has outscored Red Bull. This is a truly, just...
Call the police.
What is going on with Red Bull? I just don't...
Call the authorities.
I just don't understand.
No. My biggest letdown is Kimi Antonelli, because he ruined his race. He ruined Max's race. And just the whole thing was, it's a rookie mistake. It happens. It's a learning curve for him. It just sucked that it had to affect Max Verstappen. Not saying that I would have preferred it affect anybody else, but I definitely wish it wasn't Max. So, it is what it is. I'm sure he's beating himself up about it, and hopefully he can just take that and go into it. But yeah, that was a hard pill to swallow on the very first lap. Yeah, so let us know who your biggest letdown is and your driver of the day.
Yeah. Oh, I did want to mention, and we may keep this in or not, but did you see this quote from Christian Horner about the McLarens?
No, what did he say now?
He said, what's truly impressive, and for me, I can't see any other team being able to do it, is when you look at how close Oscar is able to run behind Lando with a car fat on fuel at the beginning of the race. He's basically making love to his exhaust pipe for lap after lap, and the tires are not dying. I mean, that to me is, that is their advantage. They've managed to create a car that really protects its tires very well and obviously has a good balance. I can't see any other car that would be able to follow that closely and not grain the front tires or the rear tires. I don't really understand. He's making love to his tailpipe.
I would like to hear how he said that in his tone, because I bet you he's insinuating they cheating. And Christian's coming across as like, I can't prove it, but I know that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how that feels.
Oh, another great quote from this race was Oscar on the radio saying, Alpine still managed to find a way to fuck me over all these years later, referring to when Colapinto pushed him into
Did
the
he
grass.
really say that, though? Like,
Yep.
I saw somebody.
It's a post from ESPN F1.
Okay, I have beef with that page, though, because they posted something that George Russell supposedly said, and I could never find it. Like, I could never find where he said it.
Oh.
And that's why I have beef with ESPN F1, because it was supposedly something that George Russell said about Jos Verstappen, being the boss or something. But the quote was like, I was like, wow, he really said that?
Mm-hmm.
And then I couldn't find it anywhere.
Couldn't verify
I
it.
could not verify it. And so
ESPN
I'm like,
tends to be a reputable source, so
that's what I thought. And
Yeah.
I literally couldn't find it anywhere. And it was ESPN F1. And I was like, what the fuck? So that's what I'm like,
Yeah. I just wanted to mention those two quotes because I thought they were hysterical.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we can go into our next race teaser.
Yes. So we move on to round 12, the Qatar Airways British Grand Prix, also known as Silverstone Circuit.
Woohoo.
So last year's main race results, we had Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, and Lando Norris. If you all did not watch last season, it was very emotional and the highlight to me of the entire season, seeing Lewis win that race.
And it is a crime that Drive to Survive did not reference it, mention it. They could have had a whole episode devoted just to that storyline because it is a good storyline. Yes. It's like phenomenal. It is the stuff that like directors and movie writers wish that they could come up with and have at their fingertips. It was cinema.
It was cinema. And it is a crime. So add that to the list of beef I have with Drive to Survive. So that is why. Like, why wouldn't you put that in there? The most decorated Formula One driver of all time has not won in 900-something days and then wins his home race with Mercedes, the team he's leaving. Are you kidding me?
And he has won at that track, I think, more than any other driver, or he may have like tied with like Schumacher or something like that. Like,
it's just, but it's truly criminal.
Mm-hmm. Anyhow,
they didn't consult us when they were putting,
clearly,
obviously. So some facts about Silverstone. The first GP was held in 1950, and it was also the very first Grand Prix.
It wasn't just the first Silverstone Grand Prix or British Grand Prix. It was the first ever Formula One race Grand Prix ever. It was the OG. The OG GP.
The OG. Yeah.
1950. So yeah, this is the 75-year anniversary for Formula One.
Oh, it's gonna be lit.
Yeah.
It's gonna be lit.
They better do something cool, like for their opening ceremonies and all that jazz. Like we had interpretive dance at Austria.
Yeah, that was
that was interesting.
Yes.
So I want something cool.
It should be. It should be. So we have 52 laps. The circuit length is 5.9 kilometers, which is about 3.6 miles. And the race distance is 306.2 kilometers, which is about 190.3 miles.
These are all approximations.
Yes.
Please don't come for us.
No, I've rounded up. Otherwise, I'd be saying 3 decimal places.
Yeah. They love a 3 decimal place measurement.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, no.
Yeah. So the lap record is held by Max Verstappen, which was set in 2020 at 1 minute and 27.0 2.97 seconds. So we'll see if that gets beaten.
That's very close to a sub minute 27. Let's see if we can break it. I'm like, let's break some records.
Let's go. Also, I don't know, because sometimes the lap records, I think that like is that the fastest in race? Is that the fastest qualifying? Because oftentimes the qualifying lap is different then. So I'm assuming most of these are like the lap record that he
from
set
a race.
Because it doesn't actually say whenever I find that stat.
Lap records at Formula One circuits set during a Grand Prix, and for the British GP, it was Max.
Yes, and then for a qualifying lap, the fastest lap is Lewis Hamilton in 2020 at like 1:24.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's time to be found in the race.
At least that's good to know.
Yeah.
For going forward.
Yeah. There are 2 DRS zones at Silverstone, and Silverstone is one of the fastest tracks on the calendar. It is known for its high-speed layout and iconic corners like Maggots and Beckett's and Abbey. Despite several changes over the years, it keeps its challenging character. Lewis Hamilton once described a lap around Silverstone as feeling like flying on a fighter jet. Silverstone is also widely regarded as a strong circuit to overtake on. That's my biggest thing I always want to know. Like, can we overtake here? Yes, we can. It has a wide layout combined with a lot of key features like the Wellington and Hangar Straights, provides multiple opportunities for drivers to make passing moves throughout the lap. It is also considered generally a high degradation track, and something to keep in mind this race. So last year, the tires they had, it was the C1, the C2, and the C3. They have moved it one over to a softer compound, so now they're doing the C2, the C3, and the C4. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects strategy. Some people do a 1-stop here. Some people go for the 2-stop. Last year we had a 2-stop, but that was also because it rained and some people changed the inters. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects things, considering it's already a high deg track, and that's on the hardest of compounds last year, and now it is a step softer. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects the weekend.
Doesn't Hamilton have a portion of the track named after him here?
Yeah, he does. And I think...
Is it the Hamilton Straight?
I feel
yes. Like it is.
Yes, I think it's the Hamilton Straight.
That's cool.
So that is pretty cool. Because, hello, he's that guy. Ferrari, get it together. But, well, guys, that about wraps things up for us. We will holla at you next week after Silverstone. Let us know your best and worst and any race predictions going into the weekend.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.